So think about the instantaneous gratification. You go on and you see this person super successful in video. So like you see Ryan Serhant, you see Ed Milet. You didn't see the 14 and 15 years before they got on wherever they went to get where they are today.
Yeah.
It's that instant, hey, I'm here. Nope, they started someplace. I started someplace. You started someplace. Hey, Jack Lehr here. I'm down in Lehr's Lair for the Lehr Podcast, and I'm bringing back a special guest. This guy's incredible. Everybody knows him. I think you do. The dealer, Pennsylvania's only dealer, Dylan Madson, baby.
Yo, what it be's like, everybody. Hope y'all having a wonderful day. We're back. It's good to be here, Jack. Every time I come back into Lehr's Lair, I'm telling you, nothing but good vibes, good energy, positivity, everything that we want in the world, right?
We had some great conversations prior. We had Everybody Needs a Sarah Kane down here for a little bit.
Yeah, the one and only Triceratops.
Triceratops. She wanted to change her Instagram name because she heard you talking about Dinah Tours.
Yeah, but you know, it's all about what you are. Okay. Sarah is no Dinotaur.
I don't think she is.
No, there's no Dinotaur. And it's good to have multiple aliases. You know what I mean? Like Dylan Deals, the Dealator.
Yeah.
The what do they call me? The Beekeeper. I've been called Mr. B before.
Mr. B.
Yeah, so it's good when you have more aliases. It's like almost like the whole Babe Ruth thing.
I know, we talked about that last time.
Yeah, the last time. Yeah, having multiple aliases is actually like a testament to what you're out there doing with the branding. So yeah, Triceratops, that's good. She's expanding, and we're helping that happen right here in Lehr's Lair. That's what comes out in this place.
I love it. So we're going to talk a little about Dylan's past. And like everybody has a story and how they get there. And I've heard a lot of people that heard your story and they go, you know what? He has a great story. Now, you've shared it with me, and we shared it with some folks on the Mindset Matters back in during the lockdown days, right?
Yeah, and you know, it's easy to judge a book by its cover. They see me on the exterior, and they see me now in having massive success in my industry.
Yeah.
But they don't realize like what all I put into it to get to that level. And it's easy for somebody to judge. I mean, that's just the easy way of people's reaction. It's a fight or flight mechanism that most people are programmed with.
So think about the instantaneous gratification. You go on and you see this person super successful in video. So like you see Ryan Serhant, you see Ed Milet. You didn't see the 14 and 15 years before they got on wherever they went to get where they are today.
Yeah.
It's that instant, hey, I'm here. Nope, they started someplace. I started someplace. You started someplace.
Exactly, and there's that, and it goes through Hollywood. When you listen to a lot of famous people speak in interviews, they'll always say like, "I was no overnight success," because a lot of people think that they've never seen them before. Then all of a sudden they're everywhere and everywhere that they need to be, and it's you know, they always say, "I was no overnight success." I mean, you think of all the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into developing who you become as an individual and how you pertain that into your profession, whatever it is.
So I know your story, but I kind of look at you as an overnight success.
Yeah,
Just
a lot of people do. A lot of people do. And you know, it's funny. They say that, and it's almost because I think they're just afraid to accept who they truly are.
Yeah.
And then to be called names when they see the success, they call me, oh, this guy's out of control. He's just going to be a flash in the pan and yada, yada. But, you know, they don't understand what really went into creating what you see before you today.
Yeah. And there's a lot that went into it. A ton of failure.
Oh, lots.
A ton of hurt. A ton of giving credibility to those haters.
Exactly.
You know,
well, we got to appreciate the hate.
Yeah,
you know,
we do. But there was a time when you didn't.
Yeah, I love the hate. I love the love. I love everything that somebody gives me. As long as they're giving me an emotion, if they're giving me something, it's an energy, I'm going to take it and I'm going to manifest it into my own being. I'm going to do it to make myself feel it, because the energy, we need that. We feed off of energy, Jack.
Yeah. That's the one thing that we don't have to worry about today. There's a lot of energy here.
Oh, always.
Let's tone it down a little bit. Right, no, brother, we're not toning it down. We're bringing it.
We can't tone it down, Jack. This is what you see. What you see is what you get.
I mean, come on, baby. We are going to get into it right now. Let's talk about like your humble beginnings.
So the humble beginnings, Jack. That's a funny thing. Like I was always the quiet type.
Okay.
You know, I was a quiet type. And it was like, you know, the nerves would always come in. Like you'd see people on TV doing things and, you know, you'd want to be more. but like there's a reserve. Like we've always talked about the introvert, extrovert.
Yes.
And everybody is an introvert. Everybody is. And it's almost like you have to try to figure out how you're going to come outside of your shell, because that's the only way you're going to succeed in an industry where all eyes are on you. But in the humble beginnings, I had no clue I was ever going to be a real estate agent, or I was going to be some edutainer or anything like that. I just wanted to be noticed. I just wanted to be popular, and it was a hard thing for me to do when you go into a classroom and you're trying to figure out ways to be noticed by your peers.
Yeah.
So the humble beginnings were like, what could I do? What could I offer? So I looked at it as an opportunity to show them what I was capable of doing, because the way I was raised, my father always told me, son, you're going to have to work hard for whatever it is you want. Mm-hmm. I came from a family who we didn't have a lot of money. Okay. We had enough to get by, but I was by no means in a situation where I could have whatever I want whenever I wanted it.
Yeah.
It would be time for school shoes. My dad would give me a $20 bill, and I'd say, Dad, like, this isn't going to get me the shoes that I want. No. I'm a shoe guy. I like shoes. I got a shoe for every day of the week. Yeah. And, as a kid, you get that $20, and it's like, what am I going to buy with this?
Pair of zips, zings, or whatever you used to call them.
Mm-hmm. Right? And he's like, well, you're going to have to figure out a way to make that work. Mm-hmm. So I did chores around the house, but then it extended. I did chores for the neighbors and the neighborhoods. And then I also would go and I got candy from the candy store, take that to school. And I used that as an opportunity to get to know my peers by selling them bubble gum on the playgrounds and doing stuff. And I was working the deals, and it gave me an opportunity to really communicate at an early age, and they noticed me more from just being the quiet kid in the class to the kid that always had the good bubble gum and the good candy.
Did you have the Bubblicious, or what'd you have?
I like the cotton candy kind, the bubble yum. I was a bubble yum with the cotton candy. That was always my fave. But then I tried to give different flavors because there's different strokes for different folks. Yeah. But as long as I could return my investment, and I learned that early on just from the simple words of my dad telling me as a youngin', you got to work hard for your stuff. So you become disciplined, and then you start hustling.
So you'd go buy a pack for 25, 35 cents, and then you'd sell them for what, 25 to 50 cents a piece?
Whatever I could get the lunch money, and I worked deals. Like I would just try to take as much of the lunch money as I could. And then I pocketed that lunch money. And over time, I had my piggy bank getting larger and larger. And I would say to my dad, okay, I want to go and get those Reebok pumps that I wanted. And he's like, oh, and I show him the money. He's like, okay, get in the car. And then, that was one of those first things that, you realize early on. And then you hear your dad telling you on the way to the shoe store, son, you see the power of what you could do when you're out there working. So not only was I getting money, but I was also getting noticed amongst my peers. Yeah. And it was a good opportunity for me to really showcase my abilities. And I got to hone in that craft at an early age.
Yeah. So you were doing sales maybe even before you thought you were doing sales.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, so then that manifested into different things. I played baseball. I did a lot of things to keep myself disciplined, because that's a big part of what we do as well. Mm-hmm. Not only, when you become a professional salesperson, you have to have the drive, the hunger. It's grit. You need to be out there every day, and you need to be disciplined in order to do that. And I think that's a good reason all children should be involved with some sort of extracurricular activities. Sports in general is a phenomenal way to get yourself into it. I mean, you're an athlete, Jack. You know what I'm talking about.
You used to be, yeah.
Yeah, used to be. You're still an athlete. You're once a jock, always a jock. You know how it is. And
or music or anything, like just extracurricular, be involved. I agree.
And it takes a discipline. You don't do it just for the, it's good. You get the exposure. People are going to notice you. It's always, you see the quintessential, everybody, the jock and the cheerleader and the stuff like that. People associate the two. But it's more or less just being noticed. And it helps with that popularity, because then you have something to show what you're really all about. Like, you're Dylan, but you're also Dylan the dealer. You're also Dylan the ball player. Yeah. You're also, Dylan the class clown, the guy who's not afraid to say whatever he wants whenever he wants.
Were you that guy?
I was that guy. Yeah. And it was a way for me to be somebody that I was afraid to be. I created a character early on that was everything that I wanted to be, but I was afraid to be that guy. I was that class clown, and it made girls laugh. And then the girls wanted to get to know me a little more based off of the person who, at the end of the day, was who I was. But if I was just trying to be myself, it wouldn't have came across that same way.
So you had an alter ego way back when. Like, Did you call yourself something?
No, I was just Dylan at that time.
Okay.
A lot of my friends called me Dill Pickle back then too, because it was like
I knew some Dylans that we coached and went to school with, and Dill Pickle was a pretty common.
Pickle was a pretty common one. So I went by Pickle a lot. People called me Pickle, and that was kind of a nickname early on. But then those nicknames, as I grew, I was like, okay, baseball, and then I did that all the way up to college.
Okay.
So I did have a lot of time to learn how to play well with others, learn how to, discipline myself in that kind of a level of performance. Yeah. But then I also realized there was a time where, is this going to be a career full time? And there was way too much competition, and I just didn't have the abilities at that time to make that a career for myself.
What career are you referring to?
Just becoming a professional athlete, because there was a time when I was playing baseball. That's what I wanted to do.
I thought you'd go there. Okay.
I really thought that it could happen. But then, the dream shuts. There's multiple paths. We walk all kinds of different paths in life, So you go up through things, and the baseball didn't work the way I wanted it to do. And I said, okay, well, what am I going to do now? So I still thought I was going to be famous. I always had it in the back of my head that I was going to be something more, because I've been manifesting this ever since a child. We're talking 5, 6 years old, Jack, this whole thing started, and then hearing okay, I had the ability to make my own money, and then I could buy my sneakers, but that's on a small scale.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I see people out there living this American dream on TV, the rich and famous, and what they're up to. And I'm like, so how can I get myself into that kind of a position where I can buy whatever I want, Yeah. So professional athletes, I thought that was a good way. But I mean, you could go so hard, but it's only going to allow you to get so far if you don't have the abilities to further it and the discipline and everything else.
There's a lot more that goes into it than just abilities.
Exactly. It's the work ethic. It's who you are. It's how likable you are with your coaches and your teammates and things of that sort. So I was like, okay, well, baseball and sports doesn't seem that's going to be the answer.
Okay.
I was in college. I was going to college at the time, and I wasn't doing that well in college. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to be up front.
I went to sharing where you were going to school.
So I went to Keystone Junior College, and that's where I played my first year of baseball.
Okay, great.
And it was okay, but then I realized in Keystone I didn't want to take it to that next level. I mean, I knew baseball.
It's a way different level of commitment.
It was Division III. We're traveling around. Yeah. I'm seeing other Division III athletes, and I'm like, geez, these guys are really good. They're actually taking it more serious than I am, and this is Division III.
And there's probably very few of them going pro.
Exactly. And then I'm like, okay, well, there's Division II, and then there's Division I, and then there's kids coming right out of high school into the pros. So I was like, obviously this isn't going to happen. My sister, she was a student at Bloomsburg University. She actually played on the field hockey team.
Okay.
I would go and visit her. And Bloomsburg back then was one hell of a party school. Boy, oh boy, was it a party school.
I think I visited there once.
And it was, that was probably, they actually made, Playboy magazine as one of the best party schools in the country. They were known and notorious for that. So I went and visited, and there was I seen all the fraternities and the sororities and the things of that sort. And I was like, this is where I need to be. This is where the action's at.
Yeah.
And I could come up into this school. So I literally ended up going and transferring to Bloomsburg from Keystone to be with my sister. And I ended up living with these two guys that was off campus. So I wasn't even on campus. I had 1 year in the dorms at the junior college, get to Bloomsburg, the biggest party school in the country at the time almost.
And then you go off campus.
And I'm off campus with two big party animals that were in their 20s. You know what I mean? They were already in their mid-20s. Here I am, 19 years old, living with these two guys that are in their mid-20s, and it was nothing but partying. I'm talking all the wrong reasons, Jack. I mean, most people go to school to get an education. I went to school, and I joke about it all the time. My wife jokes about it with me. Hi, Sabra. That I went to school to become a professional party animal. And I was more or less just trying to be the popular guy that I was in high school and the class clown, but I wanted to create a name for myself in Bloomsburg, which I did really quickly. I became a name, a fixture on campus. Everybody knew what I was about just because of being the life of the party, being at all the parties.
Yeah.
And it just manifested into something more. But what ended up happening, we all failed out that first semester. Me and my two roommates, we all failed out.
Didn't even make it past the one semester.
But I was able to get granted a longer stay there. So I was able, they didn't kick me out of school. I mean, I learned now college is a business and they want to take.
It's a revenue.
It is. It's a revenue. They want their money. So I stayed. But my parents were like, Dylan, here's the kicker. You can't live with these guys anymore. You're going to move in with your sister. Well, here, my sister lived in a field hockey house because she was a field hockey player. So, oh, shucks, I got to move into a house with all these girls that play field hockey. Man, this
kind of stinks.
This is really a crappy situation. I and in the back of my head, I was really excited about it, but there I was like, oh, okay, yeah. But I did make a point to do better as far as my grades were concerned. I changed my majors. I went from a communication major because that's what I was majoring early on, and I just went to art. And art is what I knew best because I was always into arts, always into creating. My mom and my dad were both artists.
Okay.
And so I started taking art classes at Bloomsburg because I knew I would ace them. Yeah. It's not an art school. It's not one of those schools that's like dedicated to art. They had good art programs. We had good professors, but I was able to like ace all of my art classes, which helped. And then my general eds, just as long as I got a D, I wouldn't fail out. Yeah. So that was my motto, let's just do what we can do. Obtainable goals and get good grades in my art classes and pass my general eds. So that's what I ended up doing. And then I was like, okay, well, I need to expand off of this. Let's join a fraternity.
Oh, my.
So I ended up joining a fraternity on top of all this. Now, I'll tell you, pledging in those days isn't like it is today. They really cracked down on the way they pledge in these fraternities because it's like you could die. You could literally die from the way that we were pledging these kids in this fraternity. I mean, we're kids, we're hungry, we want to get into, be popular, go to all the parties because, that's where it's at. And I didn't even really need to do that. I was already popular, living with the field hockey girls. I had a name going for myself, but I was like, how did we just build that resume?
Okay.
That was a fraternity. And then I wanted to build myself up to become that guy. And we did it. It was a whole semester of pledging.
Okay.
And I became a fraternity brother for Sigma Pi, Delta Pi, and Bloomsburg University. And that just amped up the partying even more. So we took it to the next level, Jack. And the grades were still going good.
Okay.
But then I was like, I need another change because I'm doing this arts and I'm doing this, but I need to be doing something where I'm even more likable. So while that was going on, me and my one buddy, Scotty B., rest in peace, Scotty Broback, who was a really good friend of mine in college.
Okay.
But he was always at the party, and when we'd be hanging out, he'd just start freestyling the rap beats. You know what I mean? Oh. So then I was like, dude, this is cool because he had his little posse around him. So I would just start picking up, and I would jump into the raps as well.
Yeah.
And then I started coining myself as Slicky D while I was at the frat parties, and I started rapping on top of it. So it was just another entity of like bringing me into the party, being the life of the party Slicky out D. There.
Slicky D, you know what it be.
Yo, you know what it be's like. And then, so we started doing parties where I would have a DJ and I'd be up there rapping, and it was fun. I mean, it was a good time. But then the grades started to dissipate. At that time, my sister, she graduated from Bloom.
Okay.
And she was going to University of Arizona.
Ooh.
And she went to the University of Arizona, and she was going for her master's because she was in physical therapy and all that kind of stuff, sports medicine. Yeah. So she went there, and then I went and visited her in Arizona. So, every time you make a transfer in college, you lose credits. They don't tell you that because not all your credits will transfer. Yes. So when I had my first year of school and I transferred to Bloomsburg, I lose some credits. Then I'm over here, I changed majors, so I lose some credits. So now I'm an art major, and I'm just doing the same general ed classes. Some of them I took the same ones twice just so I could get by because I'm like, I think I took Introduction to the Exceptional Individual 3 times. But you only get credit for it once. Right. But I knew I passed it on the first time.
But you paid for it 3 times.
But I paid for it 3 times. So go figure.
Right?
No, I paid for it too. I paid for it too. And none of this stuff I'm proud of doing or anything. But I mean, this is where, you start figuring out what happens in life and what you're going to become. You wanted the backstory, so I'm going to give you the facts.
Here's the thing. If you don't experience those, you're not where you are today, right?
Exactly.
Okay? So those experiences put you where we're right here today.
Exactly. Yeah. So then I go to University of Arizona and visit my sister, and I'm like, wow, this is even cooler than Bloomsburg.
I think that's down in Tucson, right?
Yeah, Tucson, Arizona.
I have some friends down in Tucson. I love University of Arizona. Thank you. You know who you are.
So I transfer all my credits, and they accepted me. And I lost a lot of credits, but based off of what I was doing, I got accepted into the art school of University of Arizona.
Okay.
The College of Fine Arts there. So I went there and I was taking ceramic classes, painting classes. I was doing great work, but then I got caught up into the lifestyle down in the desert.
Oh,
and
that's ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, is it better? It's crazy. And I mean, I was rapping in the East Coast, and I had that East Coast swag. Now I move out to a West Coast area, and they were just behind all the best rappers at that time was like East Coast.
Okay.
So when I came out to the West Side and I was over in these clubs in Arizona, they had like a lot of freestyle battles and stuff like that. So I started attending those and winning them. And I would win all these battles, and I was winning like, $100. You're not getting rich off it, but it was the clout. But then people started noticing me as like, this guy's actually can rap. He can rap his ass off.
Wow.
So I got hooked up with some people that were more involved with the industry, and we formed a rap group out there. We called ourselves Soul Deep. Shout out to my man Steve Greer and Akil Brown out there. If you guys are watching this, we had our little group out there, and we put together some tracks, and it was fun. I mean, but what ended up happening was the studies started to go down. Here I'm in a Division I university, and I realized I don't even want to do school anymore, because I'm like, now I'm thinking that I could become a professional rap artist. You know, I start thinking that there's bigger fish to fry. To hell with all this college education. I never graduated college. I went 6 years. I have no degree to show for it. 6 years. Yep. Okay. All together. 6 years in college. I have 0 degrees. 6 years, 3 schools. Keystone, Bloomsburg University, and the University of Arizona. That's a true story. But
you got more of an education with the
human experience, because I was a social director in the fraternities. I'm working with the clubs. I had a job at a topless bar in Tucson, Arizona. TDs. That was it. Topless dancers. TDs for short. So I'm working at a topless bar, and I'm gaining exposure into that kind of scene. And it was all like the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But in this case, it was the sex, drugs, and hip hop. And I became Madson. Like, that was what I ended up. Madson. So I called myself Slicky D, turned into Madson, because Slicky D just wasn't hardcore enough. But my last name was Madson.
That was East Coast. You were now West Coast.
Yeah, when I came to West Coast, it was Madson. I changed my whole vibe, and I became this wild guy. I mean, I ended up getting myself all tatted up, and really embraced that rapper lifestyle. Okay. And I did that for years. So I dropped out of college. I stayed out in Arizona for a little bit, but, I needed to come back to the East Coast because things just weren't working out in Tucson. I felt I would have a better way of getting noticed over in the East Coast.
Okay. Yep.
So I came back to the East Coast, and I moved in with a friend of mine out in Philadelphia. And I stayed with him for a while, and I started working with the local labels, and I got some recognition on the national level with some national labels as a writer.
Okay.
So I was traveling around with a lot of these other artists, working on music with them, and at the same time I was getting myself into the studio. So I had a whole bunch of studio albums that I was putting out. I put out a bunch of videos and whatnot under the name Madson. And I thought that was going to be what was going to get me paid. I was like, okay, but I'll tell you what. The rap industry, the entertainment industry is brutal. It is probably one of the most brutal. And then for being a white guy in a rap world from Pennsylvania, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, I just wasn't getting the cred I deserved. So what I needed to do, I felt like, was to get street cred, was to get involved with I had to make money. I had no money.
Yeah.
And the only thing I knew what to do before was dealing, was selling. So what do? I got mixed up with guys that were involved with the drugs. And I started selling drugs.
Wow.
I'm not proud to say I did that, but I sold a lot of drugs. And that was what I used to feed my own habits, feed my own addictions, but also have money for myself. I would get more exposure because they're like, okay, well, he's living his lifestyle that he's rapping about, because in rap, you need to rap about what you're living. But it wasn't really who I was. It really wasn't Dylan. I was like, but that's the other thing in rap. It's real. The rap artists that are actually living that life, they're doing it, they're rapping about it. It's real to them, and they're unapologetic for it.
Yeah.
Well, in the back of my head, I felt like I was apologetic for what I was out there doing. Like, I'm like, this isn't me. And then my dad and I had a lot of discussions about it, and he wasn't proud of the direction I was headed. He's like, son, you've always been a hard worker. You've always been out there doing this. You're always my hardest working, most disciplined son, and I can't stand watching you do this to yourself because, I'm high on drugs. I'm out there selling drugs. I'm rapping about drugs and this and that, and it's like nothing productive, nothing good for mankind, nothing good for myself. Nothing good comes out of that, Jack. So
it might feel good at the time. You think you're on cloud 9.
Yeah.
Right?
And I mean, and I was looking at my dad saying that to me, and it wasn't until he got sick. So my dad got really sick. He had hepatitis C. He was a big drinker.
Yeah.
And the doctors told him to not drink when he had hepatitis C, but he insisted on drinking the whole time. He's like, I'm going to live my life. I'm going to have fun. Well, it eventually really caught up to him. So in his early 50s, he got really bad, sick with liver disease. So I stopped. I put everything on hold in Philadelphia. Put all that stuff on the side in Atlantic City. I was in Atlantic City recording music at the time with Chaos Recordings. We were working on some stuff over there. And I was like, I need to come back and take care of my dad.
Yeah.
So I stopped everything that I did, came back, lived in Lancaster, moved back with him. And he lived on top of a bar called the Brickyard, which was a hot bar. It was a hot spot. So I wasn't complaining. I mean, back to the bars, back to the partying, but I'm going to be there with my dad. So I stayed there. The only thing I knew what to do was, still involved with drugs, still selling drugs. But I was there taking care of my dad, and I was working at the local sub shop, the Stakeout, which was like a regular name. Everybody knew the Stakeout on the corner of James and Queen Street, right there in Lancaster. And shout out to the Carpathius brothers, if you're out there listening. I was a delivery driver for the Stakeout, and I did that for a couple years. And it was fun, I'm living my rap dreams in Lancaster, selling my little drugs, living at my dad's place, rent-free, no money. He called me Freddie Freeloader, you know what I mean? Here I am, 6 years out of college, nothing to show for myself. Like the generalization is, they looked at me and I felt like I was a loser, but I didn't care. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, my dad's dying. I know he's going to die. And I had like kind of a chip on my shoulder about life in general. Yeah. So I got really pissed off and angry, and Madson became even madder. And I just started putting out more and more records. And then it actually started to get really good to the point where I thought I was going to get somewhere because they were playing some of my music in the local clubs. I came out with a banger called She's Sexy. And I wrote that, and it's funny, it goes even deeper on the She's Sexy, but I wrote that song and it became like a regular played song in the clubs. The girls loved it. I mean, the girls freaking love this shit. Nice. And I mean, I had a really big following with the local girls, and I had fun with the girls. You know what I mean? I was living that lifestyle on top of the bar, living in my dad's place, but they didn't care because I was a decent enough rapper, and I always had the party favors, and I was just fun and cool to hang out with, and I wasn't bad looking either. So I always had girls' houses that I could go tuck out and hang out with. I even had sugar mamas that would buy me things, take me shopping and buy me outfits, watches, and sneakers and stuff, because I was like kind of doing something to them. I was working. It was like almost like I was a gigolo in a sense. So what ended up happening was my dad got really sick. He got his liver transplant. 1 year to the date after his liver transplant, it started to fail. And he passed away. But during that time where he had his transplant and I knew the end was coming, I had a lot of talks with my dad. Okay. And he's like, son, I hated to see you do this, and we've had these talks, but you're still here and you're still doing the same shit. He's like, I know you're taking care of me and I wouldn't have it any other way. I appreciate everything that you're doing for me being here. But he's like, you got to focus on what's important in life. He's like, you're going to need a direction. You're going to need something. You got to stop messing with these little girls. You got to find something of substance. Yeah. He's like, because I'm not going to be here to see what happens with you. And he goes, I want nothing but the best for you. I love you. You're my son. And it's like when people tell you that and regular life, and they're not on their deathbeds, it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. But like when your father's sitting there and he's going, he's going to die, and he tells you, it sticks.
Well, there's probably some heavy wisdom that's coming alongside of it because he's going through that. He's getting ready to move on, right?
Yeah,
and he shared his wisdom, and you were ready to hear it, and
it sticks. I was like, yeah, you're right. So he ends up passing away, and I was like, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I didn't know, and I was still kind of running around lost. I lost my dad, so now I'm even in more of a darker place, staying in his apartment. I just started taking over the rent at his apartment. And I was like, well, I got to get the hell out of here. So I knew some people out in Vegas. So I was like, well, I might just fly back out to Vegas, take a one-way trip. Life happens. Fate in life are so many different things. Had I made that flight, Jack, I don't think I'd be here today. I know I wouldn't be here today. No, we wouldn't be.
Because I know what's about ready to happen. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, so I bought the plane ticket, and I was getting ready to go out, and I go down into the Brickyard. Same night I do every night. I'm down there in the bar, hanging out, and I see these two girls. One of them I knew was from friends with my sister. She played field hockey with my sister.
Okay.
She went to Millersville, but her and my sister were friends all through high school and all that kind of stuff. Knew each other through field hockey and playing in college and whatnot. And she was with this other woman.
Yeah.
I'll say woman because she wasn't like your average girl. And I was like, whoa, now that was like a stunner. I mean, I saw this beautiful person with a girl that I knew through my sister. So me being the ladies' man that I am, I walk over and I'm like, yo, Mackenzie, what's going on? How you doing? What it be's like? You know, spitting my game. And who's your friend over here? And she's like, Dylan, you stay away from her. And I'm like, what do you mean stay away from her? I mean, I'm just coming to introduce myself. I can't help but notice this girl's beauty here next to you. And she goes to Sabra. That's who Sabra. She looks at Sabra. She goes, Sabra, stay away from him. That's Dirty Dylan. I said, Dirty Dylan, that's a first. I never heard that one before. I had a lot of names, a lot of nicknames, Slicky D, Madson, The Sinner. Dirty Dylan, that was a first. So we'll add that to the catalog. But I said, I wanted to buy you girls drinks all night. That was what I wanted to do. And I still intend on doing that. But I want to get to know you a little more. And then they're like kind of like looking. So I said to the bartender, all their drinks are on me. And I'm sitting there trying to spit game to Sabra. And she's just looking at me like, this guy's crazy. And then at the same time, I'm in the bar working. Yeah. So I'd be like, okay, well, here's your drink. I got to step out away for a while. And I'd go and mix and mingle, sell a few bags of drugs around the club. And then I'd come back. And every time I saw a guy getting in the way of Sabra, I would just cut in between them. And I was just like, you know, this is, I see this as a sign. Please give me another chance. And I just left. And sure enough, within 2 hours, she called. And she was still in Lancaster because she was living in York at the time, and I was in Lancaster. Yeah. So she drove over. We talked, and I said, I'm never going to do this shit again. I'm done doing everything. I want to be with you. I want this to be the real. So I put my notice in, left my place, and I moved in with her in New York. Wow. So she said, you're going to have to move in with me. But I didn't have nothing else to do. So I got a regular temp agency job because I was like, I'm not going to sell drugs no more. And I was working here with 6 years of college, Division I college, everything else. I get a job with a temp agency making $9 an hour. Wow. Got a job and I just worked. And I eventually became a full-time employee. They paid me good. I was still trying to do the music. And Sabra just backed me up. She's like, you just do what you got to do. I'm going to back us on this. And she carried us. She was the backbone. She carried everything. Wow. But then I got to the point where I was like, I need to do something more. Like, this isn't working. And she had the real talk with me. We were going to shows. We were performing up in New York and doing stuff with the music. I put out more videos. She's actually the star in the She's Sexy video. You can go on YouTube still to this day and look up Madson, She's Sexy. And it's there, and she's the actress in it. And it kind of goes off of the whole story of how we met. Yeah. It's really cool. And, you know, so we were trying, and she's like, babe, I think you're ultra talented, but we need realistic goals. And I said, so what do I do? And she's like, well, you're great with people. You're hungry. You're ambitious. You're a salesman. You did it your whole life. Why not try real estate? So I got involved with real estate. I said, all right, well, I'll get my license. She's like, you've supported me. She's a psychologist, a licensed psychologist. When I got my full-time job, I was using all the money that I was making through there, which wasn't a lot, $50,000 a year, but we were using that to help get her business afloat. Right. And she expanded to the point where she had her own nice little office on Market Street. Oh, yeah. And she helped, we got the real estate license. And then it was a struggle getting that license. But once I got it, it just literally slipped like overnight. And it was like, you know, she calls it the glass slipper, like, you know, the Cinderella slipper. Yeah. And it truly is. And I just think that, you know, it's just life and how you are. And if you're hungry and you're driven and you do things for all the right reasons and you support the people that support you and you keep all that love organic, good things are going to happen. Yeah. You know, and I had a rocky road. I did things I'm not necessarily proud of, and you can hear all this stuff, and that's all real. But I stand here before everybody today as a successful real estate agent, a father to 2 beautiful girls, a husband to an amazing wife, and I wake up every day, put shoes on the same way everybody else, go out and I hustle and I grind, and, you know, the numbers are there. You can Google it, and I'm not planning on slowing down anytime soon. Like, I want to continue to... I found a career and a profession where I can be the best. I can be a rock star. I can be the entertainer I always wanted to be, but with value. So it's the edutainer that you see right now.
So there's some big things in store for Dylan. He's going to grow and expand and become that, not just the edutainer, but like national.
Yes.
Right?
We want to go national, Jack. And I feel that this story, because I said, earlier on at the beginning of the podcast, don't judge a book by its cover, because you don't know which walk of life. And there's a lot of people out there in a dark place right now, in the same dark place I was at. And I know what that place is like because I've been there.
Yeah.
And they feel like they're not going to get out of it. There's no way you can get out of that, because I felt that way. Everybody looks at you, and if you're out there and you see people looking at you and you think they're looking at you like you're a piece of crap, that you're no good, that you're a loser, and you keep telling yourself that, you start living that life and you keep putting yourself into a darker place. I want you to know that there is a light out there, that they aren't looking at you like that. Yeah. You have the opportunity and the ability to do whatever it is you want in this world, but you have to have the mindset. You have to go out there, get up and be hungry and do what's right for yourself, for the people that love you, that support you. And I'm here to show you that I'm living testament to that.
Yeah.
Like everything I say is real.
So I think Dylan had two incredible people in his life that helped him get there. And that one was his pops, right? Mm-hmm. And one was Sabra. They loved and believed in you. You heard them when you were ready, because you weren't ready when you met Sabra. And you certainly didn't hear your dad until he was on his deathbed. And that story, I think, is incredibly beautiful for you to share today, to let everybody know out there that you can be at the depths of the lowest of
rock bottom.
Yep.
Like literally, they call the word rock bottom. You hear that, and that is the truth. It is a dark, lonely place down there, but you put yourself in that position. And a lot of people, like I know, like from being down there and how I ended up down there, I put myself there. I had the opportunities. I was in a Division I school. I made my choices. And it brought me to that level. Yeah. So it wasn't until I was at rock bottom where I couldn't point my fingers at anybody, because I realized and I knew that I was the person that put myself there. But you got to understand that, because most of the time when people end up in rock bottom, it's because of the choices they made led them there.
Most definitely. And you weren't ready, and now you are. Mm-hmm. And now this guy is ridiculously killing it. So I'm super grateful that Dylan joined me in Lehr's podcast today. If this brought value to you, share, like, subscribe, follow the Dealator on social media. You'll learn some stuff, and he'll be back again here with us. Dylan Madson, super grateful for you, brother.
Yo, grateful for you too, Jack. Always a pleasure, my man. Thanks for tuning in, guys. That's what it bees like. Share this one with your friends. And if you ever need any advice, you can comment on these videos you see. We put them all over social media, all over YouTube. Hit us up. If you got some questions, if you're in a dark place and you need some motivation, we'll give that to you for no charge. This is free. You're not going to find any kind of support like that anywhere else but here in Lehr's Podcast.
Make your day great.